Hey everyone, it's Nadia from liadiadesigns and I'm back with another tutorial. Today we have a really fun one. There was actually a question in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in about whether or not we can use candy wrappers in resin. And they were specifically asking about Quality Street, which if you're not familiar, I believe it's a British or like a European candy, and we get it in Canada every Christmas time, so it's something that is familiar to us. And the way that the candies are wrapped is that there's two layers. So there is like a outer plastic layer, and then the chocolate itself is wrapped in like a silver foil. So it's basically two layers like this and then wrapped around. So the thought I had was that to use maybe the clear pieces. I mean, we could definitely try and see if we can do something with the foils later too, because they're really pretty as well. So we can try to see maybe if we do something with those later. But today I'm going to be using the clear wrap, and as you can see, they come in all these pretty colors. So there's orange and pink and red and however many colors. There's purple and stuff. I'm not using the purple one today, but so we have a bunch of colors, and I thought that it would be really cool for a stained glass look. So that's what we're working on today. So the first step that I did is I poured my clear resin into my molds. So not sure if you can see it, but maybe with the reflection. So I do have a clear layer. So it's only about an ounce of clear resin that's been poured and cured into my mold. So I don't know if you can see the edge here, but we're only about a third of the way full in the mold. So that's what we want. We want to have just a thin layer at the bottom to act as a base, and then we let that cure overnight. And now we're ready to move on to the next step where we add our design. So I'm going to get myself sorted out and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see, I have my sketchbook out here because I drew the design that I wanted to create for my stained glass. And it's, I don't know if you can recognize it, it's kind of hard to see, but it's a birds of paradise flower because I thought those colors would work really nice with the wrappers that we have. So it's going to be in my stained glass technique. If you're not familiar, it's fine. We're going to go through the whole thing here. And like I said, we started off with a clear layer of resin on the base of our mold, and that's been cured, and now we're ready to create the design. So if you're familiar with my technique for stained glass, this one's a little bit different in the sense that we're going to be adding the filling colors first. So usually I paint the outlines first and then I go back in and I add color. If you saw my washi tape flower stained glass piece, it's going to be a similar technique to that, but instead of washi tape we're using the wrappers. So the first thing we're going to do is, for me to draw this design, I just traced out my coaster mold and then I sketched in the design. So now I know where everything is going to land, and I'm going to be using this as a guide. So we have that, and it's very similar to what we did before. And what I did, I also marked, I don't know if you can see it, I also marked the colors just so I wouldn't forget, because the birds of paradise flowers have a lot of different colors in them, oranges and blues, and there's a bit of green and purple as well. So, and I have a couple different shades as well, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is line that up to kind of get our positioning. And we'll start off with, let's see, we'll just start off with, maybe we'll do a blue one. And so these wrappers have different areas on them. Some at the middle area, if you have just taken it off the candy without doing any extra crinkling to it, the middle area is pretty smooth. The edges, obviously where they twisted it, are a bit rough. I don't honestly think it matters all that much, because even if we use the crinkly area, it just gives that different textures, that look that glass sometimes have. You look at stained glass, there's many different kinds of stained glass, and they have a lot of different, some have different textural effects in them. So we can definitely decide on if we want to use the smooth parts or if you want everything to be crinkled. I have a couple wrappers here where everything is fully crinkled, because this was, I was eating the candy before I actually thought about doing this this tutorial. So I had actually already crumpled this whole wrapper up, and that's why this one looks like this. So it's kind of neat. So it already has that crinkle texture throughout the whole wrapper. So you can choose, what kind of look you want. For this one, I'm going to be using a I think I'm going to try using the area that's not as wrinkled just to kind of try that first. Or maybe it might be a bit of a mix where it kind of has a little bit of wrinkling and then the other side doesn't. So what we do is we're going to lay that down, and then we're literally just going to outline this shape here. So that's that one. That one's going to be a mix, but let's do this one as well. This one's not going to be the mixed one. This is going to be the straight blue one. And like that. And we're going to try to be as accurate as possible, but if it's not 100%, that's okay, because we will be adding outlines to them as well. So, like I said, I'm going to just take this one out of the... Activity of trying to match them all up. So we have our orange one there. This one is going to be here. This one is here. Yep, there. Okay, and then we have our green. Our green, the one is the only one that's a little bit tricky because we have to fit it to inside the mold as well. So we have that. And then this is the orange piece that goes maybe. Oh gosh. So that one will go there. I just want to make sure we have all of our pieces so we're not missing anything once we want to start putting these in place. That one goes in there. This one is actually, okay, that's our pink ones are going to be our additional ones. So let's just get everybody else in place. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at for the flower itself. And then these pink ones, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to be overlaying them right on top. So then we have, it's kind of allowing us to get another color. So this one will be turning into something of a purple. And then this one will be, I think that one's a bit long. So this one will be changing our our orange into kind of more of a corally orange color. Like it just makes it more of a darker orange. So those are the colors that we're working with here. So we have all of our pieces in place, and now what we'll need to do is I'm going to move them. So oh, I'm doing this the wrong way. We're going to leave this one up here, and then we'll move all of our pieces over. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be using my trusty gloss varnish, and I need a cup. So we're going to use, I like using the bottom of my cups. So we're going to put a bit of the gloss varnish in here, and we're going to be treating this as a glue, basically. So what we'll need is, we have our paintbrush, and I've tried this 2 ways. I did a quick test before to see which is the best way of actually applying the varnish to the piece and then trying to stick it down is easier, or if painting the actual area and then sticking the piece on was easier. And for me, I found that putting it on here and then adding in the layer of the wrap on top was easier for me. I mean, if you find the opposite easier, definitely do it that way. There's no right or wrong here. It's just mostly which way works for you best. The reason why I think this worked for me best is because these wrappers are very thin and they wrinkle really easily when you're trying to put them down. So I just found that this was an easier way to do it. So anyways, let's try. So I'm going to start with this blue one. We'll just kind of paint. And again, it doesn't really matter if we go over the lines here because all of these are going to be filled in. Plus, this varnish dries super clear, so you're not going to see it. Even if you go outside of the lines, we're not going to see it. It's going to dry clear, and once we have resin on top, it's not going to be noticeable at all. And we want to make sure our wrapper is completely flat, so you don't mind actually going over the lines a bit to make sure that we have a good seal around the wrapper. So we have that, and then that is this guy. So I'm going to take him, and we're going to very carefully, now this is not always the easiest part, but let's just try and see if we can fit it, and just place it down like so. And again, it's going to wrinkle, which is why I was saying earlier, it doesn't really matter too much if we use the wrinkly bits or not, because it's all going to kind of wrinkle and have a texture, which is actually really adds a neat effect to the fact that it's a stained glass piece. So I have that one down, and then I'll show you how I'm going to do the 2-color one just so you have it. But basically, I'm sure you can guess, we're just going to glue the first one down and then glue the second one right on top of it. So then it has a double layer. Whether or not you need to wait in between, I don't think so for the first one to dry. I think it's fine to put both at the same time. So we'll go ahead and do that. So we put down our blue like so. And again, this is much easier to do this part first than to do the outlines first and then try to fit these inside the outlines. It just doesn't really work well. Like this, technically you're kind of like putting in the color, and then when we put the outlines, we're covering all of the edges. So even if the wrapper doesn't go the way we want and it kind of goes in its own direction, we can outline wherever it goes, so it looks like it was intentional. And that's a big part of creating these designs. So we have that, and then for this pink one, I'm just going to do the exact same thing where I'm going to put the varnish right on top here. We do want to try to, there's still a little bubble there. We do want to try to eliminate any excess, kind of spaces around the edges that you know, potentially could cause bubbles for us later. So, and we want our outliner to lay flat as much as possible. So we want to get rid of any of those external bubbles, but, oh, sorry, the ones along the edges. So for the rest of the coaster, what I want to do is I want to fill them in. As you can see, I have lines here because normally for my stained glass, I just kind of mimic pieces of glass on the outside. I did try quickly. I was going to try using this basket wrap stuff here, which is kind of similar to the wrappers. The only problem with this is it would work beautifully for the main image for sure. The only problem I was having through just testing it just now is because of this the agate mold and how rough it is around the edges. It's a little bit tricky to kind of get that shape. And I did try to, you know, trace the edge. Like I would basically like lay this on top and then, you know, trace the edge, which you can still do and get it somewhat accurate. But when I tried that, which is this piece here, I couldn't get it to perfectly kind of fit in. And then I'm the kind of person I would probably sit here for 30 minutes and try to figure that out and try to get it perfect. But I want to teach you guys techniques that are going to be a little easier or a little bit less time consuming, because I know this can get frustrating if it's taking a bit too long or if it's just not working. It might seem like more effort than it's worth, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. So we want any effort we put into these to be worth it. And I think instead of using that for again, you could definitely use this basket wrap cellophane stuff for your main image in the flat areas. For the outside edges, because unless you're using like a round mold or a straight edge mold that it would be easy to cut those lines, then for sure do that. But because of the roughness of this, I'm going to not do that this time. But feel free if you want to attempt it. There you go. There's an idea for you. So for the edges for this one, for the background, I'm going to be using two types of glitter. I'm going to be using Snowstorm from Counterculture, and I'm going to be using, so instead of doing the cellophane, I'm going to be using these iridescent flakes. And it says blue because that's just the way that it reflects. So instead of doing this, we'll do this, and we should get a kind of a similar look without all the headache. So we're going to try that. So what we're going to do, and again, if you've seen my other tutorials, you know this is how we do most of the things that we're creating with glitter, is we put a bit of our gloss varnish, again, at the bottom of the cup. And we don't want to put too much of the glitter because I do want to still keep that see-through, translucent type of thing, you know, the glass feeling. So I say that as a whole ton of glitter pours out of the punch hole here. So anyway, I'm going to actually just dump some of that out. So, because we definitely don't need that much. We want to make it so that it's pretty thin. So I'm going to add more glitter. Add more varnish here. So as you can see, you don't really see a lot of the glitter here. A lot of times when I'm mixing this, you'll see a lot of the glitter in ratio to the gloss varnish, but in this one you're going to see it's mostly gloss varnish with just a little bit of glitter, because like I said, we don't want to overwhelm. We don't want the glitter to be solid. We want it to be translucent so that we can see through it. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm just going to, along the areas where there's a line, we're just going to put in our glitter. And again, doing it this way makes it a bit easier to get around all these kind of nooks and crannies in the mold, because we can just get our paintbrush in there to do it. So there we go. So that's going to be how we do the glitter sections. And then let me grab another cup. Then actually, this one I might use a full cup just because it's a bit bigger. There we go. So this one, same kind of idea. Put some varnish in there, and we'll take some of this. Okay, there we go. And this one was same kind of thing. We're trying not to make it perfectly solid, but if it does end up solid, it's not too bad because this is, you know, these are transparent pieces. They just kind of have their shimmer to them. So we'll see how this, I haven't used this for a background yet, so we'll see how they turn out. I think they should work. But either way, even if it turns out to be more opaque than I'm hoping for, that's okay, because we're going to have some areas that are just glitter and some areas that are going to have this stuff. So I'm going to add a little bit more just because I think I'm not getting enough of the flakes in here. And you could use anything here. Like if you wanted to, a lot of times I've used mica powder to, this one is actually a very common one that I've used in the past. It's the DB Resin Products, the green, gold, red chameleon powder. And if you mix that a little bit with the gloss varnish, it gives a really nice, it's kind of smoked glass effect, where it's not fully transparent, but it's got kind of like a foggy look to it. So that's really pretty. And there's also, like I said, you could just use any mica powder if you want. There's also like resin dyes that you could use as well. And that would also give you a very transparent look, and similar to what's happening here. So I do have a video of different types of colorants for stained glass that I've used. So I can link that if you guys are interested to see what other options, you know, that I've used for stained glass for actual colors, not glitters and things, but like coloring. So it doesn't have to always be one type of medium. So like I said, so we'll go in and we're going to just kind of line everything up here. All right, so there we go. And we'll try to get those flakes to lay down flat as much as possible so that they're not sitting up and causing bumps and things. That's a big chunk. All right, so then we have that. Like I said, we'll just get everybody to lay down flat here. And yeah, so I'll go ahead and go into a time lapse, get this one finished up. And I'm also going to get my second coaster done before I come back as well. So once we're done with this and we have all of our glitter backgrounds laid in, then we have to leave this to dry. So it's going to probably take a couple hours. This is actually almost dry already, but so if you were just doing this part, you could probably soon go in and do the outlines. But because I'm adding this background, this part's going to take an hour or two. Pretty much ready and dry here, so you can see we have both of them there. And so now we can go in and add our outlines. So we don't technically need to put it back on the template because we can see where all the outlines are. So I'll see how it goes. I might just end up just taking it off this sketchbook and then just drawing it myself. So anyways, but it just shows you where the lines are. The only thing you don't really see are the lines in between here, but even with that, you just you can kind of wing it according to what's going on there. But in any case, so I'm going to be using, as always, my Pebeo Cerne Relief Outliner. This is silver. Again, I have done a video where I've shown alternatives to this. So if you don't have this or you can't find it, there are alternatives, and there is a video. Hopefully I'll remember to link it up here in the top corner so that you can see the various different options that I tried and which ones were the most successful. So you can check that out as well. So anyways, but this is my go-to product for this. But like I said, there are other options. All right, so literally we're just going to go in and start outlining. So let me just do that. And I already got it on myself. and then we'll go in and do the other ones after. Like so. And like I said, this is done with wrapping paper just because it was the holidays and it's a novelty kind of idea, but I think it works really well for this stained glass look because it gives you that transparent, you know, colorful transparency. Plus, it has those interesting wrinkly effects that are happening because of the, you know, from being glued down, because the paper is quite thin. So it is pretty delicate, but I think the texture of the plastic actually gives it a really cool look that we don't really get when we do use other products. So and if you feel like you're not as handy with these outliners, you probably could do maybe using a paintbrush, or it'll be a bit more difficult to get a similar effect with the silver markers, just because you want the silver marker. This is going to be pretty bumpy terrain for a marker, but you could definitely potentially use paint, like with a paintbrush, and you might just have to go over it a couple times to kind of get the thickness of the line that you want. But again, I think this type of outliner works the best for stained glass, just because it does give us that kind of the leading kind of look that they use. All right. So we got that one done there. All right, so I'll go into a quick time lapse here and get this finished up because it's pretty much the same here on out. Almost finished coasters that you could definitely be finished here after the top coat. I will be, if you've been following my videos for a little while, you'll have noticed probably last few months, I really enjoy adding a second top coat or like a dome coat just to kind of give an extra finished look to the pieces. So these have been sitting for probably over 24 hours now. So the resin is quite hardened, and I normally try to unmold them a little bit earlier, usually about around 10 hours. So then that way it's easier to kind of peel off all these little extra bits, but it's fine. It's fine. So here we go. What do you think? I think these turned out really, really cool. Look at that. It looks like stained glass. Like, honestly, you would never know that those are candy wrappers in there. They just look so neat. All right, so we have that one. And even with the iridescent flakes, like I said, it's still, you can still see through it. You know, it's semi-translucent. And even with the glitter, it's beautiful. I'm really, really happy with how these turned out. And I would highly recommend trying these wrappers. Just so cool. Or any other similar type of candy wrappers. Obviously, if you don't get the Quality Street brand where you are, then see if you can find another brand that has something similar. So we have that. And then we have the second one, which is the same. And there we go. So neat. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be adding a second coat on top of this just to kind of get it a nice little dome finish. And then I'll get some, you know, little beauty shots, a little video for you guys. And yeah, and then we're all done. And also don't forget that if you decide that you want to try this, and if you're on Instagram or even TikTok, actually, if you decide that you want to try it and you want to tag me and let me know that you tried it so I can see it, definitely use my new hashtag, which is LiaDia inspired me. And like I said, you can still tag me in case I just have the hashtag now in case I don't see the tags, because some days are super busy for comments and things, and those things kind of fly through my feed and I don't always get to see them. But with the hashtag, I can go to that actual hashtag and see the posts there. And it's easier for me to kind of look through that. So, and what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start featuring, you know, other artists who have created pieces based on my techniques. And obviously, it doesn't have to be the same designs. Take the techniques and create something of your own style with it. And I'm going to start featuring them in my stories. So definitely, like I said, if you decide you want to try it, definitely do that. And like I said, I think this worked out really, really well, and I hope you guys do give it a try. Anyways, guys, I hope that you like this tutorial. I hope that you found it to be something that's fun and a little bit unique. And if you do, again, give it a try. Don't forget to use the hashtag and tag me. And yeah, so, and also leave me a comment and let me know what you thought. You know, if there's other ideas or designs that you think would work really well with this technique and with these little candy wrappers, definitely let me know. I'm totally up for trying it again and, you know, creating a new design. So give your suggestions in the comments, and also don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Bye.